oh man, they've lost it. This is terrible. What happened?
Why did you do that?
Well, we use some backing tracks now.
That's pretty insane.
So guys like Halford, he's well over 70, 73, and he's still going out there and doing it.
Every decade they say that metal is dead.
Your way, you know.
But do you keep in touch with Tim at all?
And I feel like you really are kind of deceiving the fans, and you need to be cautious of that, going down that road.
Hello, you metal pilgrims, and a very, very special welcome to all the Stryper fans on the show, because for the very first time ever, and I know you guys have been asking me to do that for a long time, we have nobody else but Michael Sweet on the show. Michael, thank you so much for finding time and joining me. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm in the hallway of a hotel, walking around in my socks, but other than that, I'm doing great.
Man, I very much appreciate it. I know you're on tour right now. You literally just kicked off your 40th anniversary tour last night, right?
We did. We had the first show last night, and we've been rehearsing in Nashville for about 5 nights.
Mm-hmm.
We did a full production setup, and we just had the first show last night. It went really well. I mean, you know, we've got some bugs to work out.
Everyone.
But other than that, it really, really cool tour, really cool set. Great shows. We got some killer video walls with some amazing content.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 set lists with some really cool songs from the beginning to now.
Talking about When We Were Kings, obviously the biggest news about the Stryper family these days is the release of your upcoming studio album, When We Were Kings, which will be out tomorrow, actually, when we speak today. First of all, congrats, man. Congrats on finishing it up. I know it can be tough these days, but that's great. So before anything, before I tell you what I've personally thought about it, can you tell us a bit about the creative process behind it? How you guys, compiled into what we can hear today?
Well, I mean, every album, even the classic albums, were written and created this way, but even more so the present day albums from 2005 on. I just lock myself in a room in my studio and I just start writing it. It's a song a day until there's 11 songs or 12 songs. It's about a 2-week process. And I begin doing that process. It's a bit scary because what I do is I start a few weeks before the album is to begin recording. So I wouldn't recommend that to any other bands, but it's the way it works for me. I work really well under pressure, and that's the way this album was written. 2 weeks before we started, and I sent the songs to the guys. They had the songs for a few days. They came out, we rehearsed them, then we started recording. And, it's just the way the process works. It's really cool. And it seems to work for us and has for every album, really.
That's really interesting. I never realized you guys work under such a tight schedule, man. That's incredible. I guess that's why you're able to be such a productive band throughout the years.
Well, I've never been a fan personally of demos.
Mm-hmm.
Labels always want demos, and bands always want to do demos and work things out to such a fine point. And I feel like, personally, you're wasting energy that should go into the master itself. Don't waste it on a demo. Put that into the master version. And a lot of times when you do demos, you can't recapture that magic or that energy on the actual master track. So I like to put it all into the master recording. We don't do demos.
Mm-hmm.
We don't waste time. We don't spend a year writing 25 songs or 30 songs. That's wasted time, in my opinion, and wasted energy. You either know you have a good song or you don't. If you don't have a good song, write a good song. Move on to the next. Don't sit and spin your wheels on subpar material and waste your time. Yeah, that's my thinking.
Well, here's the thing. I actually first heard When We Were Kings around a month ago. It was sent to me. And while listening to it, I got myself thinking that there's something different about it. And I couldn't really catch what it was. But then I realized that it might be one of the heaviest albums you guys released, which you did it without actually, tuning your guitars or making it sound too heavy. And No, I feel like, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but this constant change between the minor and major progressions kind of creates this feeling of this battle between the darkness and the light in each song. And that's the craziest thing, not throughout the album, but literally in almost each song. So first of all, do you agree with this? And if you do, has it come to you like naturally when you were writing this album?
100%. And that was purposely done. And basically, you hit the nail on the head. If you notice with most songs, if not all songs on the album, it'll be a minor progression for the verses and then a major progression for the choruses. And what that does is it heavies up the verses, but then it lightens up the choruses. And it's a little bit more anthemic, and people could sing along on the choruses like the old days, right? More 80s. But then when it gets to the verses, it's a little bit more modern day and chuggier and heavier. And that was done on purpose. That's something I really wanted to do on every song. It was important to do that. So absolutely, you nailed it.
You said that something about, sounding, at least in parts, like it was in the old days. But one of the things I love about Stryper, and this is exactly the same thing I love about Judas Priest, and I told Rob I literally tell him every time we speak about that, is the whole idea that you guys kind of never shown away from evolving and changing your sound. And every Stryper album, despite obviously having a certain feel, a Stryper feel to it, has never really tried to replicate the success of the predecessor. And this album sounds different from the one you released just 2 years ago, and very different to me still from the 1980s album, which is a great thing. I mean, I don't want to listen to exactly the same material being released, for 40 years.
Yep.
But then you still quoted When We Were Kings, which is obviously not to the golden days of heavy metal of the 1980s. I mean, you don't really sound like a nostalgic band. Why did you do that?
Well, I mean, it's really important. There are a lot of things to consider. I think sometimes some bands don't consider, and they don't, for whatever reason, think about the fans of old. A lot of times bands feel like they need to progress to a point where, they've got to please the new fans and try to achieve new fans. Therefore, they have to change their sound and become a modern rock band versus what they were, which was a classic rock band or metal band. Those are your roots. You can't turn your back on those fans, and alienate yourself from that fan base, because those are the fans that made you who you are, put you where you are. So it's important for me, to please the old fans, yet bring in new fans. The only way to do that is to retain the classic sound, but also incorporate some modern flares and twists and turns along the way. So you have a little modern edge for those younger, newer fans. And we're seeing that. I ask the question at every show. I say, how many people have seen Stryper? 50% of the hands go up. How many people have not seen Stryper? 50% of the hands go up. Now, if you go back 20 years ago when I asked that question every night, only a few hands would go up for never seeing us. Now it's split down the middle. So it seems to be working, where we're gaining a lot of new fans, but we're still retaining our old fan base, which is really cool.
You guys are a really productive band. And the funniest thing is that the majority of your productivity, as weird as it may sound, but actually has come already post the reunion era, post those golden years. And as of tomorrow, you'll actually release twice as many albums, right? than you did before.
Crazy.
It is insane.
I tell you an interesting little fact here. We played last night for the first show of the tour. And we do a classic set of, I think 11 or 12 classic songs. Then we take an intermission. We come back out. We do a present day modern from 05 on set. And I'm thinking the crowd's going to leave. We're going to come out to, half the crowd. That didn't happen. And as we're playing the modern set, I'm realizing this holds its own against the classic set, and then some. It's every bit as good as the classic set. Maybe even in some ways better. Songs like Yahweh, End of Days, and Sorry, And I'm thinking to myself, wow. And it's not to pat ourselves on the shoulder or on the back. It's just how we achieve that. I really don't know, but it's really cool. And I think Judas Priest is one of the other very few bands that has achieved that.
Yeah.
Not very many bands can pull that off. They've tried and they haven't been able to. But I think Stryper and Priest have been able to do that.
I always say that heavy metal was actually able to survive for so long. People were saying that heavy metal will be dead in the late 70s first, then they said that in the late 80s, in 90s. Every decade they say that metal is dead, rock is dead, and that's it. But because the bands and the legacy bands as well, lead in this process, were able to, breathe in a new life into their sound with every album, some of them at least, released. I think that's what keeps heavy metal going, and I think it is amazing. That's why we have this new influx of new fans right now.
Yeah, and a lot of bands just rely on their back catalog.
Mm-hmm.
And they play those songs over and over and over and over again. And they don't have a lot of new material. And I think what happens is they lose the passion, they lose the motivation and the drive, or they feel that it's not worth it to create new music in this music world that we live in right now. I feel the exact opposite. You got into music for the love of it, because you just love what you do. And, you need to retain that until you're gone from this earth as a musician. If you lose that passion, then you really need to reevaluate. Should you be doing it still? Should you stop? Should you go get a regular job at McDonald's? All these things need to be taken into consideration. You've got to keep your passion. You have to.
And the whole idea of keeping your passion and, evolving with so many albums behind your back, and with so much evolution that Stryper has had since, the 80s up until today, do you feel like the purpose of your band has changed?
Well, I mean, in some ways, we live in a different world than we lived in back in 1985.
Yeah.
There's a different approach that comes with that. You should consider and take into account. But in terms of our message, it's the same message. We draw from the Bible, we draw from our faith, and that's within every lyrical content that you see or read. Even when we were kings, there's a message there. The underlying message is the past, the glory days for all of us, and looking upon those with, a smile and with thoughts of, wow, look at what we've accomplished. How amazing that we've, come this far when we were kings. But, we're still kings. We're still kings in our eyes. We're still out there doing what we love, and people are coming, and that's a real blessing, true blessing.
Well, I don't know if you know, but I'm a Ukrainian in Ukraine. I'm sitting in Kyiv now. And obviously, I, just like 40 million people around me, know that the world is a mess right now. So do you think that with the current state of the global affairs and with the current state of the world, your message is actually even more needed than it was back in the 80s today?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm one that believes, and I bet Rob Halford would agree with me on this, that all the answers are in the Bible, and we seek answers elsewhere. We go to, other people to find the answers, mediators and psychiatrists and doctors. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But if we want the answers to life and a better life, open up the Bible. Read what it says. There's guidelines in there to help us all have a better life. And I think that this world needs that more than ever. 100%. But sadly, we live in a broken world. We live in a fallen world. And there are people that rise up who want to take over the world, and they're not happy until they do. And that's the terrible part. And that's just pure evil. We all know that. Yeah. But I mean, the Bible is what we stand on and what we live by, and we try to follow its advice.
Well, I'll be honest with you, man. I got introduced to Stryper a little bit later into the game. Although, of course, I knew about you guys. I knew some of the biggest hits, and I'm a Christian. You guys are a band of Christians. So there's a match, but I never really got into it. I'll be honest with you. But your fans, when I started doing the Metal Pilgrim show, your fans have been so consistent and, trying to introduce me to Stryper that their dedication has made me really, really curious. Every news about Stryper, they would always go in comments and be like, "Hey, Vlad, like Michael Sweet said this. Are you going to comment on this? Stryper did this. Are you going to invite Michael on the show? Are you going to do a review of the album or something like this?" Which I thought was extremely amazing because you have such a diehard fan base that it's just mind-blowing. I think a handful of bands in heavy metal are able to say exactly the same thing, just as you do, which I think is just wonderful. So why do you think it is so? What is so different about Stryper? Why do you think your fan base is so diehard and has been following you for so long? And it looks like there's no end in sight for this.
Well, I think there's a lot of answers to that question. It's a pretty deep question, but I do think it's due to the message. It's an inspiring message. Who doesn't want that in today's world? It's a dark world. And people want to be inspired and encouraged. Because if not, we'd all be in gloom. Every day we'd wake up depressed and, in this world that we live in. But, inspiration is a good thing. And I think that's number one. And number two, I think the consistency. Mm-hmm. We are a very consistent band. Love us or hate us. Yeah. We're consistent. And if you go back to the first album and then you come to this album, you're going to hear that. We don't turn in albums or release albums that make people go, "Oh man, they've lost it. This is terrible. What happened?" There's a consistency, and we strive to release greatness. Whether we accomplish that or not, we try to. And I think that shows, and fans really appreciate that.
Talking about that consistency and stuff, was there one particular album that you felt like was the hardest one to do for you personally in your career?
I would definitely say Against the Law.
Really?
That was a turning point for us in a negative way. We started turning to our old ways during that album and becoming very hypocritical. We'd go on stage and tell people about Jesus, and then we'd get hammered with them at the bar after the show. And that's hypocrisy. I don't like that. We can't be like that. People will not respect you if you're like that. And I came to the realization, like, I've got to make a change. And during the making of that album, it's a great album, but the behind the scenes stuff was terrible. And I left the band right after that album to get my life in order. And I'm glad that I did. And I kind of recharged and wiped the slate, so to speak. And we finally got back together in 2003, released another album in 2005. And we've been going ever since. But I would say that's the album that sadly was a negative turning point, but it had to happen. I wouldn't go back and change it because it's made me who I am today in a positive way.
So do you think that if Stryper would not have disbanded back in the 90s, you would most likely not be on stage today?
Possible. Very possible, because I think we would have continued to go down that path, which was heavy drinking, marriages, suffering, the whole 1981, 2, 3 lifestyle of just party and then, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I think if we continue down that path from the Against the Law period on, I might not be talking to you. We might only have one original member instead of 3. We're one of the few bands, too, that has 3 original members out of 4.
Yeah.
fourth member is from Firehouse, and it fits us like a glove. Perfect fit. So, I mean, we're a very unique band. Really not comparable to really any other band out there. It's a very unique situation. You know, most bands who have been around for 40 years have one or two original members, if that. Some don't even have any. And you know, Stryper's very blessed to have three original members.
It's been what, like 6 years since Perry joined, right? Or something like this.
Seven years
now. 7 years now.
Before we know it, it'll be 10.
I was going to ask you whether you already feel like you're in one coherent unit, but I feel like there's no point in this. It's been so long already.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, and this isn't to take anything away from Tim at all, but it feels like Perry is the original bass player to us. You know, it's just, we gel. Everything works beautifully. There's harmony in the band in every way, shape, and form. And it's really a great thing. He's a perfect fit for the band. He really is.
Musically, at least, I don't know about the, you know, what it is like within the band, but musically, definitely. But do you keep in touch with Tim at all or not?
No, we haven't spoken in a long time. And, you know, at first that was because of legal reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were advised not to, you know, and we kind of stuck to that. But I mean, someday maybe we'll speak. We're open. We're not closed-minded people. We haven't closed the door on that. Mm-hmm. Who knows what'll happen? Life throws curveballs, and maybe we'll speak and break bread with them and have dinner with them, and who knows? Mm-hmm. But I mean, you know, we've been so busy. We're just continuing down that path of staying busy and recording and touring, and, you know, doing what we love to do. And here we are celebrating 40 years. It's crazy.
Well, talking about celebrating 40 years, when I announced that I'll be doing an interview with you on Instagram, gazillion questions that people wanted me to ask you was, what is going on with the documentary and when will the fans be able to finally see it? So can you shine some light on this?
Well, that's been a long time coming. Obviously, a lot of work's been going into it. We had a tough time finding the right director, and that's everything. If you don't have the right director, then you're not going to have good product. Mm-hmm. And we wanted the right director. We waited, and I'm glad that we did. We found the right director. We've been getting lots of footage, interviewing people. We've got a ton of killer interviews, you know, from Pat Boone to Chris Jericho to Tiffany to, oh my gosh, I think we're going to be interviewing Mark Wahlberg. Mm-hmm. Lots of people that you wouldn't expect to be Stryper fans or know anything about Stryper for that matter. And we really wanted this documentary to be about, from the fans' perspective, mm-hmm. you know, not so much the band's perspective. Everybody's heard us talk for years. It's time to hear the fans talk. And you're going to see a lot of that. There will be history of the band, footage of the band, interviews of the band, but it's not going to be just me sitting around talking about the band for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. I just watched the Bon Jovi documentary, and that's basically what it was. Good documentary, but it's John talking about the history of the band and primarily John Bon Jovi, and that's all great. But we didn't want our rock documentary to be like that. We wanted it to be very special and very unique, very different.
So do you think there's an end in sight and will at least, I understand that you cannot put a release date on it, but do you feel like it's coming to, it's shaping in the form that we may see it in a foreseeable future?
Oh yeah. I would say that it'll go to editing. I'm going to say maybe end of this year.
Okay.
But probably not. Most realistically, most likely the beginning of next year. Mm-hmm. And then I would say you could see a release either the end of 25 or at the very latest the beginning of 26. I'm just kind of guessing.
Okay.
But we're still a ways away. We're still a good year away mm-hmm. from seeing anything. We've got a teaser already, mm-hmm. and it's great. As a matter of fact, if you purchase a VIP experience for the tour, you get to see that.
Mm-hmm.
People were playing that on a video wall, and it's really cool, man. It's awesome.
Well, going back to the tour that you just mentioned, you just kicked it off, obviously. And the craziest thing is that I'm looking at your dates right now, and this is insane. This is like 80s heavy touring schedule. You're performing every day. The 13th, 14th, 15th, and there's one, I guess, one day off, and then you keep going like this. That's pretty insane.
That's tough. That's tough, man. On a 61-year-old singer, or a 51-year-old singer, it's tough. Tom Latore is a great friend of mine and a phenomenal singer. And I think an article just came out that they don't tune down.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started tuning down a few years ago. And the difference, I've been singing hard since 1983. Actually, if you go back before that, club days, since 1979. But since 83, really hard singing, high register stuff. And it takes its toll on you. Even if you're conditioned and you've trained, it still takes its toll on you. It's a muscle, and as we age, those muscles change. The thickness, how soft or thick they are, or stiff they are, muscles change, vocal folds change. So, that's why we just started tuning down and happened to go out and do 3 in a row and then 4. We got some 4 in a row. It's brutal. And you're talking about a 2+ hour set of high register belting metal songs. It's not easy. So guys like Halford, who were out there doing it, I think Rob is Rob 70 yet? I think
73. 73.
Okay.
73.
So he's well over 70, 73. And he's still going out there and doing it like he's doing it. That's mind-blowing. Because he's a guy who's been singing for a long time.
Yeah.
And that was my point. Tom Latore is an incredible singer, but he hasn't been singing as long as, Rob has been singing and I've been singing. So it puts wear and tear on your voice. And eventually you find yourself in a position where you might need to tune down. And it really saves you as a singer. I got a text from Kip Winger telling me that.
Mm-hmm.
I texted him. I said, man, we're thinking about tuning down. What do you think? He said, man, I started tuning down a few years back. It added another 10 years to my career. Are you kidding me? Do it, And I'm like, oh, wow. Coming from Kip, that's good advice.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Do you think there is a chance that you might use back-end tracks in the future if you feel like you're not able to deliver?
Well, we use some backing tracks now.
For vocals?
No lead vocal.
No, I mean for the lead vocals, yeah, specifically.
Well, no. And I mean, back in the past, there were times when there were certain lead vocals, double lines, harmony lines that were there. And, I don't like doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you get to a point where you've got lead vocals or lead guitar solos on tracks or drum, groove, with the drum
instruments.
Man, here's my take on tracks. As long as the band is performing all their parts live,
mm-hmm.
and they're really singing with any backing tracks you have for background vocals.
Yeah.
Like when we have some background vocals, say on Yahweh, we've got that giant chorus. Yahweh, Perry and Oz are singing with that. But if it was just them, it would sound absolutely pathetic and ridiculous. And it would be silly, and we probably wouldn't do the song. So you need some help with certain backing tracks, having a big production like Stryper on certain songs. And I mentioned in an interview, imagine Queen doing Bohemian Rhapsody without any tracks.
Yeah.
It would be silly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't sound right. But I do think you can cross the line when you start having lead vocals, lead guitar solos. That's just too much, man. And you need to reevaluate yourself as a musician at that point in time. And I feel like you really are kind of deceiving the fans, and you need to be cautious of that going down that road.
Well, Michael, talking about heavy metal is literally my biggest passion. I can do this for hours and without any stop. But first of all, you are on tour. I know that you have to keep your voice, gives your voice a little bit of rest. And then you are in the socks in a hallway of a hotel. So I'll be respectful of your time.
I'm not lying. I'm in the hallway of a hotel.
So I'll try to be respectful of your time. So before we close this episode, what is next for Stryper? I know that you guys have just will release actually When We Were Kings tomorrow. For when you guys are watching it, it's been most likely a couple of days already. But what is next already? Like what is coming after this tour? Are you planning more dates? Do you plan to tour for a couple of years heavily, or do you think take a break after this heavy tour?
Well, I mean, we're gonna tour till I think October 1st or 2nd, and then we're gonna go home for like 9 days, 8 or 9 days. And then we go back out again and we go till mid-November. So we got a lot of touring this year. Then we'll take the holidays off, probably pick up next year and do international dates, South America, Mexico, Japan, Australia. That's the talk. That's the plan. Because we want to keep celebrating this 40 year. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And quite an accomplishment. And we hope to get to Europe as well. And we will definitely do that. And then after that, there's an iconic album coming out. I've got a solo album coming out. There's some other things that are being talked about that may come as a big surprise. We'll see about that, see how that works. And then, Stryper is always going to be busy. We're going to do another album at some point. But we got this one that's being released, and it seems as though people are really loving it. It's going to do quite well. And I sure hope so, because I really feel that it's one of our best albums, maybe our best album to date. And I hope the fans agree with that. We'll see what they think.
Well, hopefully they will love it, man. And hopefully I'll be able to catch you guys live. Believe it or not, I never saw you live. Never in my life. So
you got to see us live.
Absolutely, man.
100%.
I believe that rock and roll and heavy metal lives in sweaty clubs and on festivals, not online. So, yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to catch you guys live. Hopefully you'll be able to make it to Ukraine next year already. Who knows? Yeah.
That would be, honestly, we've actually talked about that. What a dream that would be. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
We've never been,
yes,
as you know. And it would be incredible to see that come to pass. And we will work on that.
Yeah. Well,
that'll be something we work hard on.
When you do, hit me up and I'll be more than happy to show you around, man. Well, this was Michael Sweet of Stryper, and their newest studio album, When We Were Kings, is already out. So make sure to not miss it. I'm sure you will absolutely love it if you're a fan of this band. Michael, thank you so much for finding time, and keep rocking.
Guys, God bless you all. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.